Hello, Year 12. Today's dot point from Maintaining a Balance is 9.2.1.7. Identify the broad range of temperatures over which life is found compared with the narrow limits for individual species. So first thing we need to get to doing is unpack the dot point. So the first part of this involves being able to identify the broad range of temperatures over which life is found. When we identify, all we need to be able to do is basically recognize these temperatures, okay? Then we need to be able to compare it with the narrow limits for individual species. When we compare, we just show similarities and differences. So reasonably straightforward for this dot point. So temperature is what we call a limiting factor of life on Earth, okay? It's one of several, but it certainly limits a lot what species can live where and obviously also where they live. And there's a huge variation in temperature over the Earth, okay? So temperatures can range from minus 70 degrees at the poles, as you can see in this graph, to more than 350 degrees Celsius. So that's not actually shown in this graph. It only goes up to about 30 degrees because this is just the surface temperatures, okay? So often those really, really high intense temperatures are found very deep under the sea in under volcanoes that are under the ocean and things like that. And living things are actually found across all of those temperature ranges. So life on Earth exists across temperatures that vary by more than 420 degrees Celsius. However, obviously, us as species, most other animals, plants, any living thing, can't tolerate a change of 420 degrees in their environment, okay? So while life exists over that huge range of 420 degrees Celsius or more, most species can only tolerate a very narrow temperature change in their temperature in their local environment. So for example, tropical fish need temperatures between 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. Mammals can only survive generally between 0 to 45 degrees Celsius. That's probably the temperature range of most living things. But even some individual species can not tolerate even that much of a change in the temperature. So the individual range for species is quite small in comparison. So extremeophiles are the name that we give to species that basically live in very extreme habitats, so really, really hot or really, really cold. And they're very highly adapted to survive in these extreme environments. They have particular things in their bodies, in their cells, that help them survive these really extreme temperatures. So an example of some of these are archaea that exist in hot volcanic springs. Water temperature gets to over 100 degrees Celsius, and this is actually a picture of some of those archaea at Yellowstone. Many Australian plants can actually survive temperatures of several hundred degrees in bushfires. That helps them survive and reproduce. And another example is musk oxen, which can survive at minus 40 degrees Celsius. So they're adapted to very cold conditions. So the temperature of the environment is what we call the ambient temperature. And as you guys are probably well aware by now because we've done a bit on enzymes, enzymes have their specific heat ranges that they really like to stay within. And if we change those temperatures too much, the cells become denatured. So as you can see here, this is an example of a normal protein, and enzymes are proteins. Heat, even things like acid salts, too much change in any of those things cause them to become what we call denatured and unfold. And if enzymes become denatured, they don't work within our cells, and our cells can't carry out life functions. So that's why the individual range of temperatures for individual species is quite small because enzymes just can't tolerate too much of a change in their natural heat that they're used to. So this is just a bit of a visual representation of what we've been talking about. Basically, life in general is found over a huge range of temperatures from -70 to 200 degrees, even more. Most living things are found between 0 and 45 degrees Celsius. Anything that can survive temperatures of around 50 degrees plus, we categorise as extremeophiles, and hypothermophiles are a special type of extremeophiles that can survive the colder weather. And this is just another little summary to help you guys visualise that. So the temperature ranges from life on Earth, again, started around -70 degrees, go to above 100 degrees. The normal aquatic environment is from about 0 to 40 degrees, so that's the general temperature range that aquatic organisms are living in. The normal air temperature range, where most living things are active, is 10 to 45 degrees, and some prokaryotes can survive 120 degrees plus. So there's a big range over which life is found, small range for those individual species again. And that's pretty much the summary of what you need to know. So life is found over a huge variety of temperatures, but individual species generally are only found within a narrow temperature range. So the range of temperatures over which life is found is very broad compared to the narrow limits for individual species.